All right, Michelle, did you want to speak to what Eileen put out about that development that you're looking to get funded?
Sure. Yeah, so Eileen sent out an email this morning about mid-level cataloging permissions we've been talking with Bywater about, and they came back with a quote and they said that they would fund a third of it and that we would just need to find the other 2/3. So we can, so the quote was 15,000. Bywater said they would do 5. We can do up to 5, and so we were looking for other people to get up to the last 5. And what it is that there would be permission levels for cataloging, and so instead of just you're able to edit all bibs, the single setting, it would actually turn into levels. So they're saying like number levels, you can choose any sort of number level. So the higher level you are, the more editing you can do. And once a record is marked at a number level, any cataloger with permissions that are under that number would not be able to edit that record. So let's say that like I would be like 99, and then people who are just like placing orders for acquisitions or something and they don't do any cataloging, they would be like a 5. And then people who actually do cataloging at the libraries could be like a 30. So then anything that's in the record that is like numbered 10, the level 30 permissions could edit it, but the level 5 permissions couldn't. And so that it would periodically be marking it at different levels, instead of before we were used to things that once they were imported into our system from OCLC with a full record, there would be an actual cataloging date in the record, and that record would signify whether other catalogers could catalog it or not. So this, instead of that type of blocking, this would actually be a permission level blocking. So if we overlaid the record from OCLC and then we changed it from 99 to 10, then the catalogers with 30 would still be able to edit the record, even though it was a full record at that point.
So
yeah.
So you're putting that number into the record, into a field in the record?
Yeah, so that's the part I'm kind of confused about, is like how that would enter there, or if we apparently, like, if me at 99, if I go in there and change something, it would automatically change to 99. Okay. Or yeah, there would be other settings in there that if I just, like, some of our short records, I'm just changing an 008 field and it's still a short record, so I could lock just that field or something, that then they couldn't edit that field. So it would do it automatically, but then you would have the option of changing a number. But yes, there would be some sort of number in the record that would tell you how it's locked or at what level it's locked at.
I'll definitely run this by the Department of Corrections libraries that we have as part of our consortia, because I think they might be interested in more granular permissions. Probably won't, the rest of our libraries, probably not going to be super exciting for them, but I could see them being interested in
that. And we will share, Bywater is going to put it on the development site, so whenever we get that link, Eileen will send out that link as well.
I'm pretty sure we would probably be interested in this on some level. I'm not the cataloger, as you know, but is there like a bug number that I can point Miranda, our cataloger, to to get more information, or I'm still new to all of this too, so I'm not sure how it works.
That I will check, because Eileen sent me like 10 bug numbers. It was like, which one is it? So I don't know which one yet. So actually
here comes
Eileen's in
Eileen
here now. Speaking of her, so there are bug numbers. I just don't know which ones they are yet.
Oh, what are we talking about?
The development.
Oh, I assembled the bug numbers, but you're talking about the cataloging development. Oh, yeah, I have a list of bug numbers, but
We'll
it's
look
just,
for more information coming.
I have a whole list. I can stick them in the chat, okay? But I'm not sure they all apply. I know the top two seems to me would apply, but it's just a set of permissions that, since we've been on the system almost a year, I mean, from the get-go, we knew that cataloging was missing. We do the centralized cataloging. We don't want anyone touching the bib records. We don't want people to, if they do a brief bib, to have to add an authority file. That's a no-no, or an authority record. Did you explain this, Michelle?
She did.
Yeah.
I was asking if there was a bug that I could send Miranda, our cataloger, to go look at. But
okay, I'll send
we'll
the
just look
list.
for more information.
Yeah, but I mean, really, it's a whole suite of granular permissions that the library's staff would use for cataloging, as opposed to the central site, where they would keep their hands off the bib records, but not have to rely on a fast framework for cataloging. So I'll put them in the chat, but you can also share with her, you know, if your catalogers are having issues, which I thought they were.
Yeah, we've
Oh,
discussed this.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I'll stick it in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions on that development idea? I mean, that's a great illustration of what these SIGs can absolutely do, is bring an idea and kind of both workshop it, but also get funding. Sometimes these things, it helps to have input from other libraries, because they might have a little bit different way, and that makes the process not work for everybody, but makes it so there's just more flexibility than maybe the original idea. So just something to consider. Anybody else have any challenges or bug ideas that they wanted to discuss today?
I wanted to get an idea, is anyone else interested in co-funding? Because we can't pay for all of this ourselves, but
Yeah, we did talk about that a little bit. Yeah, because I think Ocean State said they may be interested, and I'm going to talk to the Department of Corrections people I work with to see, because I could see this being beneficial to them potentially. So yeah, and once we get once you get it on the that crowdfunding site, it'll be a nice one-stop shop for spreading the word on this. I'm curious for the those that are joining next summer, if there were any developments that you had as requirements for signing on. Anything in the works there?
We haven't talked about any necessary developments. This cataloging piece might be a thorn for us once we actually have our scoping study, which should be either in late December or early January, when they see how we handle adding brief records and then doing central cataloging here at RCLS. What I understand is that I can give member library staff the ability to add a brief record, but then not give them other cataloging permissions. Is that how it works currently? All right, I see a lot of nodding.
That's what we do. We only
Okay.
allow our member libraries fast cataloging permissions. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but, okay.
Great.
But that, this just blows my mind. There's all these other templates. And the fast add cataloging is really for an on the fly in circulation. And because there was this whole missing set of mid-level cataloging permissions that we used to be able to do on our old system. The libraries were able to add a brief record. They were able to edit that brief record. There was a special coding on our old system that said S for short record, Q for acquisitions. And that coding is not possible currently in Koha to distinguish those records from full OCLC or whatever utility you're using from full MARC records. So in our old system, there was S and Q. Any library could edit those with this mid-level cataloging permissions. And then the full level cataloging that came from OCLC that we don't want anyone else touching except the central site used to have a cataloging date in it. So we gave Bywater, that's our support company, I don't know whether they're supporting you, we gave them, okay, that cataloging date is not in Koha, but the presence of an OCLC number, the presence of, we gave them various fixed field codes, should block the library staff from editing the full bib. But instead of that, they've given us these other suggestions that this other development that we think will work. They are committing 5,000 to it, so they really believe in it. We need another 10. We're willing to commit quite a chunk, but I would like to sort of gauge how much everyone else is willing to give, if anyone is interested. If no one is interested, I'm going to have to go to my board and say, look, we really need this. It's not as kind of, people understand holes more rather than cataloging, but it's our core function at the CLAMS network is cataloging and system support. So without this missing middle set of permissions, the libraries are forced to use the fast add cataloging template. We'd prefer them to be able to use a DVD template, a book template. A fast add, as I said, was really, it's just a workaround, and it's causing us, they're not able to add enough in the fast add. And it's really intended for if you're on a circ desk and you're checking out and the item hasn't been cataloged, that's a fast add. But we're circumventing these limitations, these lack of permissions by using the fast add for cataloging, but it's certainly not ideal. Am I describing it correctly, Michelle? Yeah. So if you do centralized cataloging at your consortium and you only allow the central site or maybe one library to import records from a cataloging facility, these permissions should be of interest to you if your libraries enter brief records so that they can circulate the stuff without sending the material to a central site. We don't buy the material in our consortium, the libraries buy it. We want them to get their material and be able to circulate it without having to send it to a central site to be cataloged.
My reservation is, how does the level get assigned to the record?
In the thing I described?
Yeah, in your scenario of what you want.
I think it's more, I thought
I
the
mean-
level was assigned to the staff person, Michelle, or is it the record? We had a meeting with Nick where he went through, the developer, where he went through the whole thing. And initially we were like, no, I don't think so. But then when he actually explained it, I'd rather he explained it to everyone. I think it would be good if we met with people who are interested. But once the top level, which is the consortium cataloging staff, Michelle and her staff, once they have done the final edit or import, then it's off limits. So I thought it was associated with the staff member rather than the actual record. Do you know, Michelle?
I thought it was both. Like we could assign people what level they were gonna be or what number, because they were talking about 1 through 99, and so you could use any one of those levels. And then there would also be an option that I could go in there and change it, even if, you know, so it wasn't that it would automatically be locked all the time if I just wanted to change like an 008 to a graphic novel that wasn't displaying. So I would go in the short record, and then I could lock it that way or unlock it by changing the level. So I'm assuming there's going to be like a number in there, and then also there's going to be a number assigned to the staff person.
Yeah,
I could be wrong. I
that
don't
sounds
know.
about like what he described. And we really only need 3 levels at the max for our community college does download their own records. So we would only need probably 4 level, up between 3 and 4 levels. But they said as they were doing it, just in case anything changed, that they would do it 0 to 99. So, you know, if you had 2 staff people at a library and one of them was doing, you know, just adding the 300 field into a short acquisitions record, they might have a certain level. Whereas if there was another one, and we also wanted not to link to the authority file, not to be able to put in a short record, the staff person can put in a short record with an author field without linking to that authority file that we spend a lot of money and time maintaining, and we don't want them to link or have anything to do with the authority file except to be able to see a cross-reference. We have a lot of writers on the Cape and they're not in our current authority file, and we do it so many times a year, I think 4 times a year. So we want them to be able to put that author field in without going off on a tangent to the authority file where they have no business being. Sorry, we sound very authoritarian, but we've learned this through hard experience that we maintain the bib file and the authority file.
Well,
And
I can tell you
we don't
from
need
the,
to be seeing that at their level, you know.
I can tell you from the perspective of a consortium in which everyone has cataloging permissions and there is no centralized cataloging. It is very much the wild west. So we don't have the capacity to go the other direction on that, but yeah, it would make some things a lot easier as far as having to do a lot of cleanup and fixing and things like that. We just have to be extra proactive in our training and that type of stuff to hopefully prevent issues there, since we don't have a centralized cataloging option.
But even if you didn't, Bob, you could assign, you know, 4 libraries that are responsible for the database.
Yeah,
On a volunteer basis.
I don't think anybody would raise their hand on that one because we basically have a consortium that is a ton of small libraries. So we don't have like that mix where you have some small libraries that don't have the staff, but then you have some bigger libraries that have like a full-time cataloger. That doesn't exist. So it's the range of small to slightly less small is kind of what we're working with. So I don't think we'd be able to pull that off, but that would be awesome. I just don't think, I think if I raise that as an option, like, hey, would you like to do cataloging for, well, we'll split it up. You could take 30 libraries worth of cataloging, then that would get laughed out of the room. But
Chanel, I just wanted to mention that it looks like there would be a box in the records that you could actually change the settings, so you could do it manually. So you'd see it in the record details page, it says.
so Alex, is that your main concern right now, is that cataloging piece?
It's one of my big concerns in migration, but yes. But it seems like, I think the difference between what Eileen came from and what we're coming from is my member library staff users don't know what they're missing when it comes to having access to templates. They're starting from scratch every time when they add a brief record. So that won't be new to them.
The templates are, I mean, that was something I think Ocean State asked for. They went live just after us. Renée will know more about that, but they were very concerned about the templates. And we thought, you know, our staff will manage without them. They love their templates, but you know, it's really not that hard. And they were asking for templates. So shortly after we went live at the end of last February, it's almost a year, we never do this unless you really know what you're doing. We were beta testers for the next version because of the templates. And we just want them to be, like right now, Michelle, am I understanding this correctly? Because of the fast add template, they're really not able to fully utilize all of these great templates that they added. And our staff want the templates. They don't want to give up templates. So they did this great thing, adding the templates, but then you have to give them all these extra permissions. And I'm sorry, but the honor system doesn't work with some people. So any reference we've been asked for, they've given our name as references to a lot of consortia, and we have to be brutally honest at the reference point and say the weakest part for us as a consortium is the granular permissions, especially for cataloging. So, but I think we'll get there. This is, if we can raise the cash, we'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you've got roughly 2/3 of it that is already funded, you're gonna, I think this is gonna be doable. I have a feeling you'll be able to get a few people that can chip in and get you to the rest of the way. I'll see what I can do on my end. We'll see if those libraries are interested in that, but I could see a possibility that they wanna put some money in on that, because we basically, just to explain this, we're basically managing two different instances under what we're calling the same umbrella, but there's our consortia that has a mix of public and school and special and community college libraries. And then there's the prison libraries that have different security needs and different setup needs. So they have centralized cataloging while the other libraries don't. And I'll talk to them, Eileen, on your behalf. So I'll present the idea to them. We'll see what they have to say.
And Eileen, I mentioned before you came onto the call, I'm fairly certain that OSL will be interested in this also. I can't give a dollar amount because that's not up to me to say at this point, but I'm going to talk to our cataloger and our executive director, Steve, and we'll definitely be in touch.
Yeah, I mentioned it to Steve, but I didn't give him the details, but he was like, oh, we have a long list, so we're not ready to commit right now. But I'm like, if the catalogers at Ocean State make enough noise about this, they were on Sierra too. You were on Sierra.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not.
And it's a big deal for us. So
yeah, it is a big deal for us too.
Yeah, I took information from the chat and I already shared it with Miranda, so.
Make noise. Catalogers make noise. Catalogers unite.
What other issues are people running into that are pain points? I know that this is not necessarily a consortial issue, but on our prison library setup, somebody completely erased all the templates for our spine labels. So so we'll have to see. There's a limited number of people with permissions that could have done that. So I think the detective work. I don't know if they keep logs on how on if those are deleted or not, but well, today we're working on trying to restore those.
And there's no undo button, or you'd have to contact Bywater if they're your support?
Yeah, we do have a sandbox, and so that hasn't been updated for a while. So I think I restored them, but there's still some function that isn't working that I haven't played around with yet. To see why that's, even though the templates are in there, maybe they're not mapped correctly or something, but why that's not working the way it's supposed to. So I'll play around with that and try to figure it out. I don't know if we'll ever find out who the culprit was, but maybe Bywater can figure that out. I don't know if they have logs for that or not. That's, that is part of consortial life is, if the more people that you have that have access administratively to things, the more chance that somebody can mess up. When it is more locked down and I screw something up, at least I know I screwed something up, and then I can then that's a little quicker to figure out because I know the thing I did that messed something up.
That's the one thing Koha could do a little bit better at, is defining who can edit things and who can use things. Sometimes if you want people to be able to use certain tools, they also have the ability to go in and change things they shouldn't. And so, we could define that so much better, and Koha has gotten better at some of these things for consortia, but still has a ways to go.
In this case, I suspect there were some people with super librarian privileges that were messing around with stuff. But in which case that wouldn't solve it, but your point is definitely well taken. That is always helpful. Because the more that would be nice for me, is to be able to not have some people have most permissions but still not be super librarian. That would be probably helpful, because then they do get into stuff that they don't have a context for, and then things may get messed up. Every once in a while we notice system settings are magically changed, and not sure why, but I know I didn't do it. No, you had mentioned an undo button, Eileen. I actually I had one of a librarian was asking about undo buttons, and I talked it over, and there's lots of places where you could see it'd be helpful to have an undo button, but the stuff we looked at as case examples were pretty complicated and pretty expensive. So that would be a functionality I would be cool to start seeing more of in Koha, but I think so many things can get changed when you do something that undoing that is not as easy as you might think.
Well, we'd like to see more granular permissions throughout Koha. I mean, cataloging is a start. We'd also like to see, more siloing of reports. you know, where staff out of the libraries have their own, but nobody else can touch them except maybe central site to help them if they're making mistakes. And we'd like to see the central site reports be safeguarded against any unwanted input. So, you know, it's kind of a theme everywhere: acquisitions, cataloging, circulation, reports, and that type of thing. I mean, the system preferences, we have that pretty much locked down.
Yeah, one thing I would like to see, and that's part of the reason, not the only reason, part of the reason we had to separate out the prison libraries is because you can run a report on any library, and that's a potential privacy issue. That would be something that I think would be nice to be able to lock down a little bit in reporting, where there could be some things in place in which you cannot get data about patrons from a different library. I don't think we've ever had a problem with it, but there are requirements with privacy that we had to adhere to for those prison libraries, that they don't want to just take it on faith that there's probably not going to be anybody that is going to abuse that.
What's
think
this?
that's
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think that's been one of our biggest issues too, is that, you know, we have 6 jurisdictions, and technically anybody can go in and look at anybody's library stuff and mess with it. And that's, in the beginning especially, they were so not used to it. It was a bit of a problem. We've been drilling into it. It's like, make sure you're in your library, don't touch anybody else's stuff. But it would be nice to be able just to take the choice away from everybody.
I think one thing that's coming in this next, so I think everybody's on Bywater, but on the next upgrade is something that we sponsored, and that is that you can't edit library items outside of like whatever group you're in. So that is an instance that should help reduce some issues there. Obviously there's more to be done, but we've had that as a patch for a while, so it's definitely something we rely on.
I think we have that too, but there was some glitch in it that you couldn't edit somebody's, but you could delete it. I'm not sure.
We can't delete on ours, so
Okay, maybe that's been fixed, but we discovered that to our horror. But
yeah, we definitely don't want that either.
So I guess that's been fixed. Let's hope so.
Yeah, I think because they've been patching us for a long time, that a lot of libraries, they've already know how to put that into an older code base, but everybody should have that in the next release that I guess is coming in January. That's a good segue. Is anybody excited about anything coming in the next release that you've heard? I know not everybody has probably gone through and looked at everything.
I was excited that 3 of our bugs are in the bug fixes, so that's good news. This always makes me happy.
Which ones?
A couple that have to do with cataloging and one that has to do with fines. We only have one library that does fines, and they just constantly are like, something weird happened. And so one of the fixes is for that. So that makes them happy as well.
Michelle, did you mention that we turned on real-time holds today? Last night. We're hoping it'll improve holds. They did a little tweaking, like we were very reluctant to go to real-time holds, but I think it was Lucas or Nick or one of them did some tweaking on it. So that was just turned on this morning. So we're monitoring it to see if there's any issue. It still won't help with, as I understand it, if a library has branches, they want priority for the main branch, and then they want priority for the other two branches. I think that's a tweak to the transport cost matrix that I'm not sure if there's a development for that. Bob, you mentioned a development that you were going to discuss at koha-US, and I meant to look it up before today's meeting, but is that still in the works?
Which development was this?
It was to do with holds.
Oh, it was the thing that we talked about?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we talked about it. Nobody was jumping up for joy and saying, like, I totally agree, we need to do that. But, you know, maybe that one's been a while. We could, I think what was the idea there to kind of combine the functionality of library groups and local holds priority, so you could make it so that if you're using groups, so if you have districts within your larger consortium, if the item is available at that home library of the patron and they have a request for an available copy, this is how it currently works. Local holds priority kicks in, and it would fill that hold at that branch. What we would like to do is make a second level of that where it would then look at the hold group and then fill it somewhere within that hold group before then it goes out to the remainder of the consortium.
So that would fix the thing where a library has two branches, but if I think it only touches it once, if the main branch can't fill it, it goes to everyone rather than going to their other two branches, which would be a group.
Yeah, so we would still want it to go to the owning library of the item first, but then be able to then before it goes out to everybody, hopefully fill it in some place that's close. Because if you're part of a group within a group, presumably there's regional closeness that isn't, you know, that and in the case of CLAMS, they've got islands. In the case of Colorado, we have a huge state with mountains, so they would just speed up the process by which these things are get into patrons' hands.
Yeah, that hold group thing would only work for like one of our multi-branch systems, because they actually have a van that does inter library branch deliveries. The rest of the multi-branch systems, they don't have that, so it's going to go out.
It's going to go
through our delivery courier anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So the whole thing with like even like the 9 library branch, like it's just going to go to the warehouse anyway, so it's not going to work there. So hopefully that's something where we can set per group, per like holding group.
Well, I don't even think we've got I wrote up a spec for it, but I don't even think we submitted to Bywater yet. So don't worry about this being imminent.
Well, it seems Michelle set up that cost transport matrix. For some reason, I can never say that. The matrix. So I think that's helping along with what was turned on last night with the island libraries, whereas where if Edgartown can't fill the hold, it doesn't have to go off the island. They have their own inter-island delivery or intra, whatever. So if it's not in Edgartown, instead of the whole, the request will go to Vineyard Haven on the same island. I think that's working okay for us now. It's when Falmouth has a hold, then they wanted to go to the 2 branches, And I guess they have an informal delivery between the branches. Staff work at one and they might work at another. So that's the part that's not working, is the within branches for some reason.
I think we could set up our transport cost matrix to kind of
I'm on a meeting.
help with that, like the multi-branch system that I
Okay.
mentioned, and they have a van that goes in between their 6 branches. We don't have that kind of programmed in right now. I think the reason why is because after it tries within like that first zone, like the same numbers in the group, once it goes to the second level, it's really free for all for the rest of the branches. So I think we're waiting for that to be fixed.
We're saying fixed, but in some of these cases, the functionality has just not been written in there originally, so enhanced is often what we're actually talking about here. And the difference between a fix and an enhancement is money. You need a sponsor typically to make that happen. Sometimes that's not the case, but I think at the koha-US conference, Nick was making it very clear that almost always is the case, that even if it feels like something that should work a certain way, if it's not designed originally to do so, it probably will need some financial backing to get that done.
Well, we're in, but our priority is the cataloging thing. But have you filed a bug for that, Mike, or is there a bug already?
For the holds that we're just talking about, Jason found one.
Oh, okay, thank you.
20747.
I also found this one, which is what Mike's talking about, I think, where it only looks at the least cost branch once. So it looks like there's been some work done on that.
No, you know.
Now, when you say some work, I'm still trying to understand.
There's a test plan.
Okay.
So that
So
means-
like there's an attachment on it, which means somebody
Yeah.
tried to fix it. Basically, some code has been written to try and fix it, but it's still setting in new. So that also is something else, I guess, an indication that it's not moving really. I don't know.
Yeah, if Kyle's already done some work on it, you could maybe, Mike, you might be able to convince him to do some more, possibly.
So the best way to do that is to comment on it or have one of our system staff try that patch.
Potentially, if Kyle's saying he's not getting it to work, you're probably not going to get it to work. You're certainly welcome to try.
No.
But yeah, commenting on it would be good. If you can get a ticket in with Bywater, that'll at least get that in the development meeting that they go over stuff. So if you don't have something like that in there, I would recommend doing that. That doesn't mean it's going to hop up to their top priority, but it's going to be on the list, versus if you don't have a ticket, it might be a little bit more out of their mind and they're not aware that somebody actually wants to see that happen. It's one of their customers. Okay, well, I did want to bring up something to this group because as I transition to the role of president, I'm going to have a few more duties than I have had this past year. So I was hoping that someone would consider taking on this Consortia SIG. If I'm making it look hard, I'm doing it wrong, because you basically just send out a reminder that the meeting's going to happen, and then you just, try to get people to talk about stuff that's going on. There's really not a whole lot to it. I don't spend a whole lot of time planning these things or anything like that. So someone in this group might consider taking this on. It could be a good low impact way to get a little bit more involved in the community in koha-US. So I'll just put that on your radar. I will be definitely gone for the meeting in January. And not in a way that I can reschedule it, because I will be out all of January on paternity leave. So that could be a time for somebody to slide right in and at least get test drive this a little bit. So I just throw that out there for consideration. We'll talk about this more in other koha-US venues to see if we can see if somebody is interested. But like I said, I can't stress this enough, how little work goes into this, because as long as people show up, there's plenty of things to talk about, and people have been showing up. So we have about 5 minutes left. If there's any other things, I pulled up some things that I had from the upcoming release that I had noted might be interesting. And I can go over some of those. One of them is, I thought this was pretty interesting, where you could create a report for a cataloging concern. I don't know if that's necessarily going to work for us, because we already have a ticketing system, and we probably don't need that coming in two places, but I thought that could be an interesting thing, particularly as we were the discussion earlier, talking about all those permissions, where if you don't actually have the permission to change something, you might want to still notice something's not looking right and then report it. So that could be something interesting.
I read about that one and I was like instantly terrified because of all the book challenges going on and things. And we did recently have an issue where somebody decided they wanted to tag some of our records with like this is grooming transgender. So I feel like that they're gonna use this cataloging concern for the same thing. So I may not turn that one on initially, but it could be used for good as well, possibly.
I don't have a bug associated with that. Sorry, Christopher. Not handy.
Sorry, Michelle has a whole load of forms for various different cataloging issues, so I don't know whether we would turn it on or not.
No, it's a patron complaining. Yeah, no, no, that's not fair.
Sorry, no.
Although I do like the harmful statement, but I don't know how we would apply it to our records yet, but I do appreciate that one.
Another thing that I thought would be useful is the ability to edit circulation messages instead of just delete them and replace them. That should be pretty handy. Well, there's going to be an option with fines and fees to email a receipt instead of just print one out. Could see some usefulness there. Yeah, so there's just a few things I pulled out. I went through the whole list of the release and tried to find things that would be interesting to my consortium. But I will get more Monday minutes and stuff like that coming, and webinar in at some point, hopefully in December. We'll see. To go over some other features, because I always miss a few that the way that they're written in on some of those release notes are hard to imagine until you're actually seeing them show up Oh, Bywater webinars in January, of course. Okay. Yeah, I had just talked to somebody that was saying they could be in December, but apparently not.
It's the first week of January, so basically December.
Yeah. I just won't be, yeah. Somebody else gets to watch those, not me. All right, any last words before we call it a meeting? We technically have 2 minutes left. Somebody can get in a bug they're excited about, or with the remaining time we have. Okay, well, always plenty of opportunities in koha-US to talk about bugs and things like that between the other SIGs and the general meeting. We will be back at our normal meeting time, and that's gonna actually be, it's like December 28th. It will be our next Consortia SIG meeting, so there is also a chance I won't be at that one. Depending on how things go. These things are not always timed ahead of time. So that is definitely in the range of I could be not available for that. So we shall see. But thanks everybody for coming and your comments and discussion. And I may see you next month. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.